Hello, it's exactly 7 o'clock as I'm making this video on a very sunny morning. It's looking great and I'm going out to the stables, as you can see. But I wanted to talk about, I was going to make a video about the Scottish National Party and witches. But I'll save that till this afternoon. Meanwhile, while I was eating my Warburton's, they're not paying me, my Warburton's gluten-free slice and a piece of cheese and drinking my coffee, I was watching Tim Pool, and he was talking about Donald Trump trolling the Democrats. Apparently what Trump has taken to doing is endorsing or saying nice things about whatever candidate the Democrats are putting up that's going to pose the strongest resistance. And that way, I suppose, apart from having some fun, he might actually get the weaker candidate in and give him or his representatives or whatever, or other members of the Republican Party a better chance. I didn't actually listen to the full thing, but the point is that Trump was endorsing rivals, people who've been particularly nasty to him. And I thought that was very amusing, very clever, very witty, and it reminded me of something, a famous quote by, well, it wasn't a quote at the time, I am quoting now, Benjamin Disraeli, a 19th century British Prime Minister. And he was something of an outsider. He became the Prime Minister, so not that much of an outsider, but he was always known to the British public as the Jew, because that's what he was. Although nominally he had converted, well, his father converted. I understand that what happened was his father had a row with the synagogue and just went round to the local church and had his whole family converted to Christianity. I don't know if that's true or not, it's just something I heard. Anyway, obviously his father had a sense of humour and Disraeli himself had a sense of humour. And he was an interesting man. For instance, when he married a lady more or less for her money. But that's what a lot of 19th century men did. But then he was very faithful to her and attentive. He was a good husband, in other words. So it wasn't like he was some cad who married a woman for her money, frittered it away and then deserted her or just went off with mistresses all the time or whatever. And when Queen Victoria offered him a title, he actually asked that the Queen give his wife the title, that she would be a lady in her own right rather than the wife of a lord. And I thought that was a magnificent thing for him to do. Anyway, he, apart from being honourable in his own 19th century way, he was also very witty. And there's a famous incident where he was getting very heated in the debating chamber of the House of Commons, and he said something like, "And half the cabinet are asses." And the Speaker immediately pulled him up and said, Mr. Disraeli, that's or the Right Honourable Member or whatever, is not speaking in parliamentary language. Will you rephrase that? Now, there's been a recent incident where somebody in the Scottish National Party insulted, actually this has happened a couple of times, and I believe a Labour Party politician insulted the Conservatives, and they were told that wasn't parliamentary language, and they refused to retract and were escorted out of the House for being rude. And by the way, do you know, everyone knows about the configuration of the Houses of Parliament. Do you know why the seats are there at that particular distance with a table in the middle? Well, that's because it's more than 2 sword lengths apart. That's how heated things used to get in Parliament. And as a matter of fact, there is, if you go into the Houses of Parliament now, the House of Commons, the room where the members of Parliament hang their coats, there's a little pink ribbon hanging from the hooks in on every hook and on every coat hook, and that pink ribbon is there to hang your sword from. Okay, but I got distracted again. So, okay, heated debate, no swords by that time. Disraeli said half the Parliament are asses. Speaker says, not good language, Mr. Disraeli, kindly rephrase. And so Disraeli, not missing a beat, said, my apologies to the House. Half the Cabinet are not asses. And that was a brilliant comeback, and a sign of a truly witty brain. Now, it's been said that people who have a good sense of humour, generally that's a sign of intelligence, and there's absolutely no doubt that Disraeli was supremely intelligent. Queen Victoria thought much of him. She really liked him. Gladstone, who was the other Prime Minister who had sort of swapped places with Disraeli over the years, she said something like, Gladstone talks to me as if I'm a public meeting. And Disraeli, well, he flattered her, but he chatted to her as well, and she appreciated that. Right, so yeah, that was it. Half the Cabinet are asses? No. Half the Cabinet are not asses. Right, and that's what Trump is doing. And he's taken, I don't know whether he's read it, I shouldn't think he's read anything by Disraeli. But Disraeli, by the way, who was also an author of very forgettable books, but he said, when I want to read a good book, I write one myself. He was not short, he was rather short on humility, let's put it. Trump is taking a leaf out of that book, whether he knows it or not. He's discovered a technique. Now, I did see a trigonometry, they interview people, and they were interviewing Sam Harris, and Sam Harris, sometime during the interview, he was asked, why are you so against Trump, or why were you for the suppression of the Hunter Biden story? And Harris said something like, and I think this was probably hyperbole, at least I hope it was, he could have, Hunter Biden could have babies stacked up in his cellar for all I care, I just didn't want Trump in. Now, it didn't really shock me because I've been, with increasing sadness, watching the progress of Harris's Trump derangement syndrome through Trump's term in office. And he didn't like Trump to start with. And then when Trump was Prime Minister, terribly sorry, when Trump was president, he was constantly sending out the most vicious tweets about Trump and about his policies and all the rest of it, even though Trump was a pretty good president for most of the Americans. He was one of the few presidents who never started a war. Cost of living was staying stable. Mind you, I mean, it was a better time, wasn't it? There was no COVID and there was no war going on in Ukraine. So you have to take that into consideration. But apparently unemployment among ethnic minorities was down, the lowest it had been for years, maybe forever. It was really good. So even if it was just for the sake of the American people, Harris should have been able to come to some sort of terms. And obviously now there's more violence in America, and there's more disruption, and indeed there will be more bodies in the cellar, not necessarily in the cellar, but on the streets. There will be more dead children in today's America than there were during Trump's term in office. And Sam Harris was sitting there in his comfortable armchair, just not taking any notice of that. I'm still trying to work out why Harris has this thing in his head about Trump. And the only thing at the moment I can think of is that Trump is very witty. He's very clever, he's very funny, and for some reason Harris finds this to be maybe an insult to his own intelligence or a rivalry. I honestly don't know. I'm still trying to work that out. If I come up with an answer, I'll let you know. Meanwhile, I have to stop now and go and ride my horse. So, I'm Granniopteryx. I'm to be found on YouTube, Rumble, BitChute and Minds. I let you know when I've uploaded a video on Twitter, Gab and Parler, where I am known as @Granniopteryx. Please like this video, please share it, please subscribe, and please check your subscription if you are subscribed, because it's by no means a given that the subscription will last from one week to the next on YouTube. On the other channels, I don't think there's a problem. Okay, yeah, and contribute to the channel if you can. You'll see a buy me a coffee thing up there. Yeah, that's right, it's on that side. Okay, right, till next time. Why not treat yourself or a favoured relative or friend to these magnificent examples of merch? The mugs and t-shirts come in the Granniopteryx design or Granbo with a firearm or the more deadly knitting needles. Go to www.granniopteryx.com and whatever platform you're watching this on, please click like, subscribe and share.